The boy entered the pen of the untamable cow, but what happened next will take your breath away. Mrs. Eleanor Smith was watching from her kitchen window when her grandson Ethan disappeared from sight. The 6-year-old had just finished breakfast and was playing in the backyard of their small home in the rural area of Millbrook, upstate New York. In just a few seconds, the boy had vanished. That's when she heard the shouts coming from the neighboring farm. Her heart raced as she recognized the desperate voice of Farmer William Johnson yelling at someone to stay back. Eleanor dropped her cup on the floor and ran outside, fearing the worst. "Boy, get out of there now." "That cow is dangerous," William bellowed, standing outside the farthest pen on his property. Eleanor rushed over and nearly fainted at the sight. Her little grandson Ethan was inside the pen, standing right beside Daisy, the black and white Dutch cow that terrorized the entire area. The animal, known for attacking anyone who came near, stood completely still as the boy gently stroked her snout. "Ethan, get out of there right now," Eleanor shouted, her voice trembling with fear. Farmer William, a sturdy 52-year-old man, held a stick in his hand but didn't dare enter the pen. Over the past 2 years, Daisy had knocked down 5 grown men, including his most experienced foreman. The local vet had recommended putting the animal down, but William refused. The cow produced more milk than any other in his herd. "Mrs. Smith, you need to get your grandson out of there," William said, breaking into a cold sweat. "That cow has sent 3 men to the hospital." But something extraordinary was happening. Ethan, in his dirt-stained orange shirt, seemed to be whispering softly to Daisy. The massive animal lowered her head and let the boy touch her ears. Eleanor had never seen anything like it. "Grandma, she's not mean," Ethan said, his small voice carrying a certainty that left the adults stunned. "She's just lonely." "Lonely for what, sweetheart?" Eleanor asked, trying to stay calm so as not to scare the boy. Ethan looked at his grandmother with his bright brown eyes, the same eyes she saw every day, the ones that reminded her so much of the boy's father, her son Robert, who had passed away 6 months earlier. "For Dad," Ethan answered simply. The boy's words struck Eleanor like lightning. Robert had worked as a vet in the area before leaving for New York City in search of better opportunities. He always said he had a special way with animals, just like his son was showing now. William tried to step into the pen to get the boy, but the moment he crossed into the enclosure, Daisy completely changed. She positioned herself between the farmer and Ethan, snorting threateningly and baring her teeth. Her dark eyes gleamed with aggression. "She won't let anyone come near me," Ethan said, stroking the cow's neck. "But I'm not scared." Eleanor's legs shook. How had her grandson managed to get close to that animal, and why was Daisy protecting him as if he were her own calf? Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us newcomers a lot. Now back to the story. "Ethan, sweetheart, come slowly to Grandma," Eleanor pleaded, holding out her arms. The boy looked at Daisy and whispered something in her ear. The cow let out a soft, mournful moo that echoed across the pasture. Then, to everyone's astonishment, Ethan walked slowly toward the fence, and Daisy followed right beside him like an obedient dog. "I'll come back tomorrow, okay?" Ethan told the cow before stepping out of the pen. Daisy stood by the fence, watching as the boy walked away. Her eyes looked sad, almost human in their expression of abandonment. William couldn't believe what he had witnessed. In 2 years, no one had managed to get close to that animal without being attacked. He himself had given up milking her, leaving the task to a remote-operated automatic machine. "Mrs. Eleanor, how is this possible?" asked the farmer, still in shock. Eleanor picked up Ethan in her arms, smelling the scent of earth and grass in her grandson's hair. She herself didn't know how to explain what had happened, but something inside her suspected this encounter wasn't just a coincidence. That night, after Ethan had gone to sleep, Eleanor sat on the porch of her simple home and watched the lights of the neighboring farm. Robert always said animals had a special connection with certain people. He himself had shown it all his life, ever since he was a boy. "Robert, my son, your boy has the same gift as you," she whispered to the wind, feeling tears roll down her face. Eleanor's son had left for New York City after his wife, Ethan's mother, had abandoned them. The woman couldn't handle the simple country life and had run off with another man, leaving behind her husband and child. Robert, heartbroken, decided to try for a new life in the city, but he ended up in a traffic accident just 3 months later. Ethan barely understood what had happened to his father. Eleanor had only told him that Daddy had gone to a faraway place and couldn't come back. The boy, just 6 years old, still asked when Robert would return. The next morning, Eleanor woke up to find Ethan's bed empty. Her heart raced when she looked out the window and saw her grandson in the pasture again, this time with Daisy, who had broken through the fence during the night. "That boy is going to give me a heart attack," Eleanor murmured, rushing outside. Ethan was sitting in the grass, leaning against Daisy's massive body. The cow lay there, letting the boy use her belly as a pillow. It was a sight that melted Eleanor's heart, but also filled her with worry. "Ethan, sweetheart, you can't leave the house alone like this," she said, approaching slowly. To her surprise, Daisy showed no aggression. The cow simply watched her with calm eyes, as if recognizing that Eleanor was important to Ethan. "Grandma, Daisy said she knew Daddy," Ethan declared with the sincerity only children possess. Eleanor felt a chill run down her spine. How did Ethan know the cow's name? She had never mentioned it to him. "How do you know her name, my love?" "She told me yesterday," Ethan replied, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "And she said Daddy took care of her when she was little." Ethan's words made Eleanor remember something. Years ago, when Robert still lived with her, he had mentioned a special cow he'd treated at a nearby farm, a calf born with complications that he had helped save. "Ethan, tell me everything you remember about what Daisy told you," Eleanor asked, sitting on the grass beside her grandson. The boy began recounting details that left Eleanor stunned. He described how his father used to bring special medicine for Daisy when she was young, how Robert would spend hours talking to her, and how the animal had grown sad when he stopped coming. "She waits for Daddy to come back every day," Ethan said, his eyes filling with tears. "Just like me." Eleanor hugged her grandson, feeling her own heart break. Ethan had found in Daisy someone who felt the same longing he did. It was as if the animal and the child had formed a bond through their shared loss. William appeared in the pasture, visibly annoyed about the broken fence, but he stopped abruptly when he saw the scene. Daisy was calm, letting Eleanor approach without any sign of aggression. "Mrs. Smith, this can't go on," said the farmer, though his voice wasn't as harsh as the day before. "My property can't become your grandson's playground." "I understand, Mr. Johnson," Eleanor replied, standing up. "But I need you to hear me out." Eleanor began to talk about Robert, how he had cared for Daisy when she was young, and about the special connection her son always had with animals. William listened with growing attention, especially when she mentioned details about veterinary treatments only someone in the field would know. "Was your son that vet who used to come here 5 years ago?" William asked, his expression surprised. "Yes, Robert Smith. He lived with me in the house next door," Eleanor confirmed. William ran a hand through his graying hair. He remembered Robert perfectly. The young vet had saved not just Daisy, but 3 other cows in his herd. He was a dedicated and skilled professional, but he had stopped showing up all of a sudden. "I remember him. Good man, your son," William said, his voice softening. "But where is he? Why doesn't he come around anymore?" Eleanor hesitated before answering. The truth was still hard to say out loud. "Robert passed away 6 months ago, Mr. Johnson. He won't be coming back." The farmer noticed the finality in Eleanor's voice and understood without further explanation. He looked at Ethan, who was still hugging Daisy, and felt a pang in his chest. "I'm so sorry, Mrs. Smith," he said, genuinely moved. "I didn't know." In the days that followed, Ethan began visiting Daisy regularly. Every morning after breakfast, he'd run to the pasture where the cow waited for him. William, initially reluctant, eventually allowed the visits after seeing how the animal behaved around the boy. Daisy was noticeably calmer. She let the farm workers approach to fix fences and even for milking, something that hadn't happened in months. It was as if Ethan's presence had soothed something wild inside her. "That cow is completely different," Jim, the farm foreman, remarked to William. "This morning, she even let me change the water in the trough without attacking me." William watched from a distance as Ethan played with Daisy. The boy had brought an old ball, and was trying to teach the cow to nudge it with her snout. The scene was both comical and touching. "Do you think animals can miss someone like people do?" Jim asked. "I wouldn't doubt anything after what I've seen," William replied. One afternoon, while Ethan played with Daisy, it began to rain. The boy ran to take shelter under a large tree in the pasture, and to everyone's surprise, Daisy followed. The cow positioned herself to shield Ethan from the rain, covering him with her massive body. Eleanor, watching from the window, felt her eyes fill with tears. It was exactly the kind of thing Robert would have done, protecting those he loved from any storm. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. When the rain stopped, Ethan emerged from under Daisy, completely dry. He hugged the cow's neck and said something that made Eleanor's heart ache. "Thank you for protecting me like Daddy used to." That night, Eleanor decided she needed to have a serious talk with Ethan about his father. The boy was creating a fantasy where Daisy was a connection to Robert, and that could be harmful to his emotional growth. "Ethan, sweetheart, come here. Grandma needs to talk to you," Eleanor called after dinner. The boy sat on his grandmother's lap, his clothes still carrying the scent of grass and cows. "My love, you know your daddy isn't coming back, right?" Eleanor said gently. Ethan stayed quiet for a moment, playing with the buttons on his grandmother's blouse. "I know, Grandma," he finally answered in a small voice, "but Daisy gets less sad when I'm with her, just like me." Ethan's simple reply showed Eleanor that her grandson understood more than she'd realized. He wasn't living in a fantasy. He was finding a way to cope with his own pain by helping another being who felt the same loss. "And do you feel less sad too?" Eleanor asked. "I do, because when I'm with her, it's like Daddy's a little bit closer again." Eleanor hugged her grandson tightly, understanding that perhaps this unusual friendship was exactly what both needed to heal their wounds. A few weeks later, an unexpected event changed everything. Dr. Anderson, the local vet, had to retire due to health issues. William became worried as he didn't know any other professionals in the area. "Mrs. Smith, do you happen to know any vet who could tend to my farm?" he asked during one of their daily conversations about Ethan and Daisy. Eleanor thought for a moment. Robert had left behind contacts for colleagues in New York City, but they were all too far away. Then she remembered something. "Robert left some books and equipment stored in the attic," she said. "Maybe there's something useful there." That afternoon, Eleanor climbed up to the dusty attic of her house for the first time since her son's passing. Among old boxes and furniture covered with sheets, she found a suitcase with Robert's professional belongings. Inside were notebooks filled with detailed notes about the animals he'd treated, including records of the cows on William's farm. Eleanor was surprised to see how many pages were dedicated specifically to Daisy. Robert had documented every visit, every treatment, every change in the cow's behavior. On one of the most recent pages, dated just months before his departure, he had written, "Daisy shows signs of depression after routine changes. Extremely intelligent and sensitive animal. Responds well to consistent human interaction. Requires regular attention to maintain emotional stability." A shiver ran down Eleanor's spine as she read her son's words. Robert had predicted exactly what would happen to Daisy after his absence. The cow's aggressive behavior wasn't malice. It was her way of expressing confusion and sadness. She kept reading and found something even more revealing. Robert had written about his plans to return and visit Daisy even after moving to New York City, knowing she would need ongoing psychological support. "Robert, my boy, you always knew what you were doing," Eleanor murmured, pressing the notebook to her chest. At the bottom of the suitcase, she found an unsent letter addressed to William. In it, Robert explained Daisy's special condition and asked the farmer to be patient with her. The letter was dated 1 week before the accident. Eleanor came down from the attic holding the letter, knowing she had to show it to William. Maybe it would help him understand what was happening. The next morning, she found William watching Ethan play with Daisy and handed him the letter. "Your son wrote this for me?" William asked, surprised. "He meant to give it to you before leaving for New York," Eleanor explained, "but he ran out of time." William read the letter in silence, his expression slowly changing. Robert had explained in detail Daisy's sensitive temperament and how her aggression stemmed from anxiety, not natural malice. "He really knew that cow better than anyone," said William, carefully folding the letter. "And now I understand why she calmed down with your grandson." "Ethan has the same way with animals as his father," Eleanor confirmed. William grew thoughtful for a moment, watching Ethan teach Daisy to follow simple commands with hand gestures. "Mrs. Smith, I'd like to make a proposal," he finally said. Eleanor looked at him curiously. "What kind of proposal?" "I'd like Ethan to come here officially, as a sort of therapeutic companion for Daisy," William explained. "Of course under your supervision, and I'd pay a small fee for the service." The proposal took Eleanor by surprise. She had never imagined that her grandson's friendship with the cow could turn into something more formal. "But Ethan is just a child," she protested. "Exactly, and that's why it works," William replied. "There's no pretense, no fear, it's pure love." Eleanor considered the offer. The pension she received was small, and any extra income would be welcome. Besides, Ethan clearly loved being with Daisy, and it was good for both of them. "I need to think about it," she said. "Of course. No rush," William answered. "But know it would be a favor to me. Daisy is my best milk producer, and since Ethan started visiting her, her yield has increased by 30%. This surprised Eleanor. She hadn't realized Ethan's presence had such a significant impact. That evening, she talked to Ethan about William's proposal. "Would you like to be Daisy's official friend?" she asked. Ethan's eyes lit up with joy. "Does that mean I can stay with her every day?" "Every day, but it would be like a job. You'd have to take good care of her and do everything I say." Ethan nodded eagerly. "I want to, Grandma. Daisy gets so happy when I'm with her." Eleanor smiled at her grandson's enthusiasm. Maybe this was a way for Ethan to learn responsibility while doing something he loved. The next day, she went to William to accept the offer. "But I have a few conditions," she said. "What are they?" "Ethan can only be with Daisy when I'm around. And if I think it's getting dangerous, he stops immediately." William agreed to the terms. They arranged for Ethan to spend 2 hours every morning with Daisy, supervised by Eleanor. Ethan's first official day as Daisy's therapeutic companion was a success. The boy arrived with a list of activities he had prepared, brushing the cow's coat, talking to her about the day, and teaching her new tricks. "Grandma, look!" Ethan shouted excitedly. "Daisy learned to shake hands!" Eleanor watched in amazement as Ethan made a hand gesture, and Daisy lifted one of her front hooves. It was unbelievable how such a massive animal obeyed a 6-year-old. William was impressed too. In just a few weeks, Daisy had transformed from an aggressive, troublesome cow into a docile and productive animal. "Your grandson has a special gift," he told Eleanor, "just like his father." The weeks flew by. Ethan developed a routine with Daisy that included exercises, playtime, and plenty of affection. The cow responded enthusiastically to every activity, and her milk production kept increasing. Other farmers in the area began hearing about the boy who tamed the untamable cow and came to visit William's farm. Some even asked if Ethan could help with their own difficult animals. "Looks like we'll have to start a business," Eleanor joked with William. "Not a bad idea," he replied, half serious. "Ethan has a natural talent, but not everything was perfect." One afternoon, Ethan came home sniffling. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" asked Eleanor, concerned. "Daisy is sad today. She didn't want to play," replied Ethan, wiping his nose with his shirt sleeve. Eleanor watched her grandson carefully. In just a few months, Ethan had developed an incredible sensitivity to Daisy's emotions. "Do you know why she's sad?" Ethan thought for a moment before answering. "I think she remembered Daddy today. Sometimes I feel that way too." His answer touched Eleanor deeply. Ethan was learning that it's normal to have hard days and that sadness is part of dealing with loss. "And what did you do to help her?" "I sat beside her, and we stayed quiet together," said Ethan. "Sometimes we don't need to say anything, right, Grandma?" Eleanor hugged her grandson, amazed by his emotional maturity. That experience with Daisy was teaching Ethan valuable lessons about empathy, patience, and unconditional love. Dear listener, If you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like the video and especially to subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. The following month, something unexpected happened. Dr. Anderson, the retired veterinarian, came to visit the farm to see the famous boy and his cow for himself. "I've never seen anything like this in 40 years of practice," he told William after observing Ethan and Daisy. "That boy has a special connection with animals." Dr. Anderson then made a suggestion that surprised everyone. "Have you ever thought about documenting this? Maybe studying scientifically how Ethan communicates with Daisy?" The idea intrigued William, but Eleanor hesitated. "I don't want my grandson to become a test subject," she said. "It wouldn't be like that," Dr. Anderson explained. "It would be more about understanding animal-assisted therapy better. Ethan could help develop techniques that would benefit many other children and animals." Eleanor promised to think about the proposal, but her priority remained Ethan's well-being. Meanwhile, the friendship between Ethan and Daisy continued to flourish. The boy had created a special weekend routine when he could spend more time with the cow. "Grandma, can I bring my storybook to read to Daisy?" Ethan asked one Friday. "Do you think she likes stories?" "I think so. She always stays really quiet when I talk to her." The next Saturday, Eleanor saw Ethan sitting under the pasture tree, reading aloud to Daisy. The cow lay beside him, chewing grass and seeming to listen to every word. "What story are you reading to her?" Eleanor asked as she approached. "The Ugly Duckling," Ethan replied. "I think she likes it because it's about someone who was different, but later found their family." His answer made Eleanor reflect on how Ethan saw the situation. To him, Daisy wasn't just a cow. She was someone who, like him, had lost her original family but found a new kind of love. A few weeks later, William received an unexpected visit. His younger brother, Michael, arrived from New York City with his family to spend a weekend at the farm. "So this story about the tame cow is true?" Michael asked skeptically. "See for yourself," William replied, leading his brother to the pasture where Ethan was playing with Daisy. Michael was stunned by what he saw. Ethan had set up a small obstacle course with sticks and stones and was teaching Daisy to follow the path. "This is impossible," Michael muttered. "Cows don't do this kind of thing." "That's what I thought too," William said proudly. "But Ethan and Daisy proved us wrong." Michael's daughter, an 8-year-old girl named Emily, was fascinated by Ethan and his cow. "Can I play with her too?" asked Emily. Ethan looked at Eleanor, who nodded in agreement. "You can, but you have to go slow," Ethan instructed. "Daisy gets nervous around new people." Ethan took Emily's hand and carefully led her toward Daisy. The cow observed the new girl cautiously, but showed no aggression. "Let her smell your hand first," Ethan taught. Emily extended her hand, trembling slightly with nervousness. Daisy delicately sniffed the girl's fingers before allowing her to touch her snout. "She really is gentle," Emily exclaimed in wonder. "Only with people who are kind," Ethan explained wisely. "Animals know when someone has a good heart." Michael was impressed by Ethan's maturity. The boy showed an understanding of animal behavior that many adults lacked. "Where did he learn these things?" Michael asked Eleanor. "His father was a veterinarian," she explained. "I think Ethan inherited the talent." That evening, during dinner at William's house, Michael made an unexpected proposal. "William, have you ever thought about expanding this? Turning the farm into an animal-assisted therapy center?" The idea left William thoughtful. He had noticed how fulfilled Ethan felt working with Daisy, and how the other farm animals also responded positively to the boy's presence. "Would it be possible?" he asked. "Of course. In New York City, there are several centers like that. Children with emotional difficulties benefit greatly from contact with animals, and Ethan could be like a junior mentor." Eleanor listened to the conversation with growing interest. The proposal would open opportunities for Ethan to further develop his talent, but it also worried her. "Ethan is still too young for so much responsibility," she said. "It wouldn't be pressure," Michael explained. "It would just allow him to do what he already does naturally, while helping other kids in the process." After much debate, they decided to start small. William would allow some local children to come meet Daisy and learn from Ethan, always under supervision. The first test happened a few weeks later. Mrs. Wilson from the neighboring town brought her 7-year-old grandson, who had trouble speaking after a family trauma. "He hasn't talked to anyone in months," Mrs. Wilson explained to Eleanor. "The doctors said he needs positive stimulation." Ethan welcomed the boy named Tyler with his natural kindness. "Hi, Tyler. Want to meet my friend Daisy?" Ethan asked. Tyler only nodded, clinging to his grandmother. Ethan led Tyler to the pasture fence and began telling him about Daisy. He talked about how special she was, how she loved affection, and how important it was to speak softly so as not to scare her. "She understands everything we say," Ethan said. "Sometimes I tell her my secrets." Tyler watched Daisy with growing curiosity. When Ethan offered him grass to feed the cow, Tyler hesitated for a moment before accepting. "You can get closer," Ethan encouraged. "She's really sweet." Slowly, Tyler approached the fence. Daisy lowered her massive head and accepted the grass from the boy's trembling hands. For the first time in months, Tyler smiled. "Does she like me?" Tyler asked, breaking his silence. Ethan beamed. "Of course she does. She only eats from the hands of special people." Mrs. Wilson began to cry with emotion upon hearing her grandson's voice again. Eleanor put an arm around the woman, perfectly understanding how she felt. From that day on, Tyler started visiting Daisy regularly. Under Ethan's guidance, he learned to brush her, prepare her food, and most importantly, talk to her about his feelings. "Ethan is helping Tyler find his voice again," observed Eleanor to William. "And he's helping himself too," replied the farmer. "Look how much more confident he's become since he started teaching other children." It was true. Ethan had grown more articulate, more patient, and showed natural leadership when working with other children and animals. Word of Ethan's work began spreading through the region. Parents of children with various emotional challenges started reaching out to William, asking if they could bring their kids to meet Daisy. "We're creating something special here," William said to Eleanor during one of their daily conversations. "As long as Ethan is happy and safe, I'm all for it," she replied. Life had taken a turn Eleanor could never have imagined. Her grandson had transformed his pain into purpose, finding a way to honor his father's memory by helping others. One afternoon, as she watched Ethan teach a group of 3 children how to interact with Daisy, Eleanor felt a presence beside her. She turned but saw no one, only a gentle breeze rustling the leaves of the tree where she sat. "Robert, my son, your boy is following in your footsteps," she murmured to the wind. "You'd be so proud." That same afternoon, something special happened. One of the regular visitors, a 9-year-old girl named Sophie who was afraid of speaking in public, volunteered to help Ethan explain to the other children how to care for Daisy. "You have to be really gentle," Sophie said, her voice growing steadier as she spoke. "Daisy is very smart, and she knows when you're nervous." Ethan smiled proudly as he watched Sophie step into a leadership role. It was exactly the kind of transformation he loved to see. "Well done, Sophie," he praised. "You're turning into a great teacher." Eleanor watched the scene with a heart full of gratitude. Ethan hadn't just built a friendship with Daisy, he'd created an entire community of children supporting each other through their love of animals. When the group left that afternoon, Ethan sat beside Daisy and whispered in her ear, "Thank you for helping me help others, Daisy. I think Dad would be happy knowing we're making kids smile." Daisy let out a soft moo in response, as if agreeing. To Ethan, that sound was confirmation he was on the right path. In the following months, the informal animal-assisted therapy program continued to grow. William decided to formalize the initiative, registering his farm as an educational visitation center. "Ethan will be our junior coordinator," he announced during a meeting with the parents of participating children. Ethan, now nearly 7, had matured well beyond his years. He developed his own system for assessing how each child felt around the animals and designed specific activities for different emotional needs. "Some kids need quiet activities, like brushing or talking," Ethan explained to a group of interested parents. "Others need more playful ones, like teaching tricks." Dr. Anderson, who had become a regular visitor to the farm, was amazed by Ethan's intuitive understanding. "That boy has insights into animal therapy that took me years to develop," he remarked to Eleanor. Robert always said Ethan was special, she replied, watching her grandson patiently guide a shy child on how to offer grass to Daisy. The program's success caught the attention of professionals from other cities. A psychologist specializing in animal-assisted therapy even traveled from Albany to observe Ethan's work. I've never seen a child with such leadership ability in therapeutic activities, said Dr. Sarah Williams to William. Ethan has an extraordinary talent. The psychologist proposed a formal partnership between her clinic and William's farm. She could guide Ethan in developing more advanced techniques and help document the program's results. It would be an amazing opportunity for Ethan to learn even more, William told Eleanor. Eleanor considered the proposal carefully. Ethan clearly loved what he did and showed natural talent, but she still worried about putting too much pressure on her grandson. Ethan, what do you think about having a psychologist come here to teach you new ways to help the children? She asked. That would be great, Ethan replied excitedly. I want to learn everything I can to help better. The partnership was set, and Dr. Williams began visiting the farm every other week. She taught Ethan basic behavioral observation techniques and how to spot signs of stress or comfort in the children. Ethan, you always need to pay attention to body language, the psychologist explained. If a child has tense shoulders or avoids eye contact, they might be uncomfortable. Ethan soaked up every lesson like a sponge. He started keeping a notebook where he wrote down his observations about each child who visited Daisy. Emily was more relaxed today than last week, he wrote in one entry. She laughed when Daisy licked her hand. Eleanor read Ethan's notebook every night, amazed by his observational skills and dedication to helping other children. Oh, your grandson has a natural calling for this, Dr. Williams told Eleanor. With the right training, he could become an excellent therapist when he grows up. The idea planted a seed in Eleanor's mind. Maybe Ethan could follow in his father's footsteps, but in a field that combined veterinary work with psychology. Meanwhile, the bond between Ethan and Daisy remained the heart of it all. The cow had not only become gentle, but genuinely affectionate with all the children who visited the farm. It's like she knows she has a special mission, noted Jim, the foreman, to William. Animals are smarter than we think, William replied, watching Daisy patiently interact with an autistic child who had arrived that morning. The program was working so well that William decided to expand. He acquired 2 retired older horses that proved perfect for therapeutic activities. Ethan, would you like to learn to work with horses too? William asked. Really? I can, Ethan answered, his eyes shining with excitement. William hired an equine therapy instructor to teach Ethan the basics of safety and horse interaction. The boy showed the same natural aptitude he had with Daisy. This boy has a gift, the instructor, old Jack, told William after the first lesson. In 50 years of working with horses, I've rarely seen someone so young with such sensitivity for understanding animals. Within months, Ethan was guiding children in basic equine therapy activities under old Jack's supervision. William's farm had become a small but recognized therapeutic center in the area. We're building something that will last, William told Eleanor during one of their evening talks. Ethan has found his path, she agreed, watching her grandson brush one of the horses while speaking gently to it. The transformation in Ethan was remarkable. The shy, grieving boy who had lost his father had become a confident young man with a clear sense of purpose. Her mission to help other children through animals had given new meaning to her own pain. One afternoon, while Ethan was working with a group of children, Eleanor received an unexpected call. Mrs. Smith, this is Jennifer, a reporter from the local paper. We'd like to do a story about your grandson's work. The proposal left Eleanor uncertain. On one hand, the publicity could help more children learn about the program. On the other, she worried the exposure might be harmful for Ethan. I need to talk to him first, she replied. That evening, Eleanor explained the reporter's proposal to Ethan. They want to share your story so more people know about our work here, she said. Ethan thought for a moment before answering. If it helps more kids meet Daisy and the other animals, then I'm in, he said with determination. The article was published a few weeks later under the headline, 7-year-old boy turns farm into animal therapy center. The response was immediate and positive. Families from distant towns began reaching out, wanting to bring their children to experience the program. Mental health professionals also expressed interest in forming partnerships, "We need to get more organized," William told Eleanor. "The demand is growing beyond what we expected." They decided to establish a more structured schedule with specific days for different activities and age groups. Ethan actively participated in the planning, suggesting improvements based on his experience. "The younger kids need more time to get used to the animals," Ethan observed, "and the older ones like learning about veterinary care." His analytical and organizational skills impressed the adults around him. Dr. Sarah proposed scientifically documenting the program's results to present at animal-assisted therapy conferences. Ethan could be a co-author of the study, she suggested. His perspective as a young facilitator would be invaluable. The idea excited Ethan, who devoted himself even more to his notes and observations. "I'll help others understand how animals can heal broken hearts," he told Eleanor. The program's first official year ended with extraordinary results. Over 50 children had participated in the activities, many showing significant improvement in their emotional struggles. "Ethan, you've done something amazing," William said during a small celebration at the farm. "It wasn't just me," Ethan replied humbly. "It was Daisy, the horses, and all the kids who came here. They taught me as much as I taught them." Eleanor watched her grandson with indescribable pride. Ethan had transformed his pain into healing for others, honoring his father's memory in a way Robert would surely have approved. That night, after everyone had left, Ethan sat beside Daisy in the quiet pasture. "You know, Daisy, I think Dad would be proud of us," he said, stroking the cow's neck. "We turned our sadness into something beautiful." Daisy let out a soft moo, as if in agreement. To Ethan, that sound would always be confirmation he was on the right path. The following months brought new challenges and opportunities. A university in New York City reached out, interested in studying Ethan's program to develop animal-assisted therapy protocols for children. "It would be an honor to participate," Eleanor told the researchers, "but Ethan is still a child, and that can't be forgotten." The researchers assured her the study would be conducted in a way that preserved the naturalness of Ethan's work and the well-being of all the children involved. The program continued to grow organically. Ethan developed specialized activities for different needs. Children with anxiety worked on breathing exercises alongside the horses. Children with low self-esteem participated in friendly basic training competitions with Daisy. And children with communication difficulties engaged in storytelling activities for the animals. "Ethan created a unique model," noted Dr. Sarah during an evaluation. "He combines natural intuition with learned techniques in an extraordinary way." William invested more resources in the farm, building proper facilities to accommodate larger groups and ensuring the well-being of all animals involved in the program. "This farm is no longer just a business," he told Michael during a visit. "It's a healing center." Ethan, now 8 years old, had taken on responsibilities many adults would find challenging, but he embraced them with genuine joy. "Every child who smiles here makes my heart happier," he told Eleanor during one of their nightly conversations. "And what does that teach you about life?" she asked. Ethan thought carefully before answering. "That when we share our pain with love, it turns into healing for others." His grandson's response left Eleanor speechless. Ethan had learned one of life's most important lessons through his journey with Daisy. In the following years, the program continued to evolve. Ethan developed partnerships with schools in the region, offering educational visits that combined learning about animals with developing social-emotional skills. Children learn about responsibility, empathy, and teamwork, Ethan explained to a group of visiting educators. And the animals teach them about unconditional love. Daisy, now older, remained the heart of the program. Her transformation from an aggressive cow to an animal therapist had inspired many other stories of healing and renewal. "She saved as many children as she was saved by Ethan," observed Dr. Anderson during one of his visits. The farm had become a model for other animal-assisted therapy centers in the country. Ethan received invitations to speak at professional events, always accompanied by Eleanor. "My work here has taught me that every living being has value," Ethan said during a presentation to therapists, "and that love can heal any wound." His words always moved the audience, reminding seasoned professionals of the purity and power of the human-animal connection. The end of the story. Now tell us what you thought of this touching story about Ethan and Daisy. Do you believe animals' love can truly heal broken hearts? Share your thoughts in the comments and let us know if you too have a special story with an animal. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss other heartwarming stories.